and about ach, or achu, etheric being, and hu, which is oversoul. And you ask again about these parts of your existence. Pa hu, the overbeing. Pa achat, the etheric being. Pa ba, which is one soul, the creative expression being. So that's one form of your soul, the creative expression being. Pa rawah, the breath, the living being. Pa ka'ah, the exoplasmic being. And pa nefas, the living being. Pa chatat, the physical being. So that would be the various variations of soul and spirit. Did that help you out? But I would strongly recommend you to check this book out.
What's it called?
Soul, Spirit, Spirit. Any more questions?
I have a question about the mixing with the soul. Okay, so say a black person does mix with a white person. Does that person lose their soul, or what happens with that? Like, say I mix with a white person, do I lose my soul to them?
You would lose your divinity to them. You would literally downgrade yourself when you mix with a Caucasian male, because you start to inherit, you take on him, on his vibration, on his DNA, and you lose your soul in that process. In order for you to regain that, you would have to mix in with pure Nagato again. That's what happens. Because the Caucasian male operates on 5 ether, while his female operates on 6 ether. So she's actually higher. This is why she has the ability to upgrade, you know what I'm saying? When she takes on a Nagato male, she becomes 1 in 9 ether with him. But if you was to downgrade with a Caucasian male, right, you will lose yourself in that process. And unfortunately, there's more than one way. Not only the genetic mixing, but the things that we do, we take on his lifestyle, we take on his culture, we take on his voices, we take on his eating habits. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, male and female. We're not going to just say the sisters are straight their hair, no. The males are trying to walk like them, talk like them, eat like them, work out like them, hang out with them, socialize with them, speak like them, raise their sons to enjoy their sports, their luxurious lifestyles, you name it. You're now vibrating on their level. And for those of us who are working tirelessly, you know what I'm saying, and I'm going to point to those who are called stars or successful in society, they'll do whatever it takes to inherit his riches and don't realize they lose their soul in the process. You're willing to take down your own race just to live that luxurious life. It doesn't matter how many babies you destroy, or how many boys you send to jail, or how many girls you make whores of. It doesn't matter to them. You understand? That's a way of losing your soul also. You surrender your soul at that particular point. You know? But as far as we deal with DNA mixing, that's, you know, again, we've heard too many books our master teacher wrote, like The Genetic Kiss. You know, when you take those books and start putting them together, you'll see a puzzle. There's this genetic thing that's going on. And it's all about the preservation of us as a species. You understand? Remember, they took us here, they brought us here, and experimented on us for 400 years. This is why we have so many different variations and inner spirits that we war against. And even different diseases that come in because of this race mixing. So we know now as ontologists, because the Wu-nuwaup is ontologists, we know the science of genetics. We know if I take that step toward that direction, I will deviate from nature's divine plan. I will downgrade my genetics in that process. So it's very important to understand these things. And most people hear this and think, oh, they're being racist. You know, that's not the case. We're being intelligent about this. I know if I do this, something's going to happen to me. You understand?
Yeah.
If you mix with somebody who got a disease, is it a stand to reason you will inherit that disease? Yes or no? Would you mix with somebody with AIDS? You know? Or if somebody had a missing leg and, you know, his ear grew on his eyes, you know, hey, you know, is love that strong? I'm going to mix with him and stand a chance that, you know, my children might have 5 fingers growing from their head. You won't do that. You gotta be smart about it. And we understand, as a master teacher is teaching us about this race, the Caucasian. He's teaching us about the science of their genetics, how they were formulated, what's in their genes, what you inherit when you kiss them, what you inherit when you decide I'm going to mix in with them. How many people here know about leprosy? You know what I'm saying? You have an extreme form of leprosy where you see people who have severe deformations, you know, as referred to this particular book right here. Mitochondrial DNA, you know what I'm saying? You'll see that. But then you also have other variation. Most people don't know all these skin diseases that we have, those are forms of leprosy. That we have it. I'm a Nubian or Nagaru, and you know, we have skin problems. And those are variations because of the mixing that took place. Or I have battles within my own self, voices that I argue with to do the right thing. And that's because of that. You know, you inherit mental diseases and physical diseases. You know, as a young lady, it's important to know these things. You know what I'm saying? I hope that helped your answer. Yeah. You know, but as our master teacher said, with our woman, because you are God, because you carry the mitochondrial DNA that makes you responsible, you are that matrix. You know what I'm saying? Mathematically, you bring life into existence. It is a goddess who brings great men or gods into the world. So when you take on a Caucasian, what are you doing to yourself? That becomes a part of your DNA. And it does influence you. You know what I'm saying? We call them black jobs. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being real.
So, like you said, so if a black man were to mix with a white woman, he would be upgrading her basically?
He was upgrading her. And so in the process, he does, like the brother a few weeks ago, he explained, in the process, you know what I'm saying, he's also taken away from himself. She starts to inherit it. You know? It's like the best example I've used in the year, you take some milk and you pour it in coffee, what do you get? Is it still as pure as it was before? No. You know, that's the best way I could express that to you. You take away from yourself to bring this being up genetically. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And at that point, he got you. You're decisive.
Another question about the race mixing.
Yes.
Say a black man and a white woman were to mix, would that also affect the child?
Most definitely would affect the child.
In a negative way?
I'm sorry?
In a negative way.
In a negative and positive way. You know what I'm saying? The positive thing is that child inherited that Nagaru DNA. And he has a chance. You know? Like I said many weeks ago, all of us in this room, somewhere along the line, you can shake that family tree. And here comes, exactly. Somebody fell off that tree that's not of our stock. You know, so we all got problems up in here. That's just real. You know, there are people here who are the result of those two marriages coming together. The thing about it is this is how my teacher expressed to us. There's a whole class called inclination. Right? Some people are born to the Nubian family, right? Who may be a result of race mixing, but spiritually they know they're Caucasians. And they will work against their race, literally. Work against their race. You know what I'm saying? Then there are people who are born of that and they choose to be who they are. They choose an Nagaru race. You know? Remember that ether is not only dealing with physical, but it's also dealing with mental. It's the combination of all existing gases in nature and conscious gases. It deals with consciousness also. And every race consciously operate on different parts. Our master teacher put out an article a long time ago, a diagram that showed the different conscious level. You know, I got a board right now, I'll write it down. But in the diagram, he wrote oldest, right, which is Nagaru. And we operate on, you know what I'm saying, we operate on the fact of knowing and how a thing was done. We knew things. We know how, and we just knew. When you go down to the Caucasian, at the bottom total pole, they operate off hopes and fears. And you know that based upon their society. And they put that in us by way of religion. You hope for a better tomorrow. you name it. That question was brought up last week, as a matter of fact, as far as that is concerned. So when you deal with conscious level, you make that choice. You know what I'm saying? Where do you stand consciously? Go ahead. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Could you build on effects of like the solar flares that are happening and the effect of, the melanin and the sun genes? And if you could, if there's something like a book that breaks that down in more detail, point me to that?
Okay, if I'm mistaken, a book called The Great Balls of Fire. Yes, The Great Balls of Fire speaks a lot about that also. The different things that go on with the sun and the changes on this planet. Our master teacher, give me a moment. He explained how the sun goes through its own cycle also. He made a statement one time. He said that they can affect the weather, meaning those who are controlled with heart. Yeah, they can mess with the weather here, right? He said, but they can't do anything about that sun. And the sun have solar flares and solar splits that happens. And the sun, as it's going through a cycle right now, does have an effect, not only on our planet, but also on us also. The closer the sun comes to us, the stronger we become because of our melanin. You know what I'm saying? Our tolerance. And melanin is not only skin deep. Your brain is coated in melanin, all your organs in your body, and we're calibrated differently. We also have our antennas. You know what I'm saying? That's just got our woolly hair out. That has a connection with the sun also. You know what I'm saying? That was clear?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Since I'm going to read here, just to give you a little more clarity. Okay. I'm sorry, I wanted to bring this point just to help you out also. This is coming from the Perception Change 2012. I appreciate your patience. Starting on page 20, verse 78. So on December 21st, 2012, starting from 3 a.m. up to the sunrise morning, the axis begins pointing to the center of the galaxy and the energy force on the surface of the moon and planet Earth. This is dealing with the changes that's happening in our solar system, because this relates to your question. If you remember, our solar system is a part of a much larger network, and there's a 24,000-year cycle that our solar system goes through. Our sun is affected, and our planet in turn is affected by how it's positioned in the solar system, in the Milky Way galaxy, where it's now pointing towards the center, or the galactic center as it's called. You know what I'm saying? And it's affecting the sun, and it's affecting the planet differently. Let me go on. Okay, it starts pointing towards the center of the galaxy, the energy force of the surface of Moon, the planet Earth. Now also, every 12,000 to 13,000 on Earth, a sacred and secret event takes place that changes everything. An event that changes the very course of nature and history. And at this moment in time, this rare event is occurring from 2009. I'm speaking about the Earth energy force. It's solar plexus, central sun, which is a moon ray, female. So we know the sun itself, our planet itself has a central sun. And that in ancient Egypt was known as Anun ray. You have Atun, and Amun, and then you have Anun. Those points in the skies are dealing with Atun, and Amun. Anun ray is dealing with the central sun, you know what I'm saying, within our planet, and its energy center. Connecting to this Pa'ut, the center of the Earth, is an energy that appears and behaves much like a double helix as it moves. It is this energy that gives rebirth to the true seed, Nut and Geb, everywhere on this planet Earth. Not in any religion or church, temple, mosque, or of their religious world of fiction. These are facts. 86. This is the renewals of Nagaru, or Negro's records, after 24,000 years, and 6,000 of them were blinded by a white light of evil teachings or ghost spirit worship. 87. The planet Earth's energy force is always attached to a single location on the surface of the planet, and stays there for a period of 12,000 to to 13,000 years. Yet then, it moves to a new location for the next 12,000 to 13,000 years, based upon cycles of time, or what is called the precession of the equinox. And when it moves, your idea of what spiritual means changes. And that's a very important point right there. What spiritual means changes because it's no longer based on spookyism, on some unseen, unproven God who can't be confirmed, right? It's based upon things that are tangible, that we know. It transforms according to the new energies of the future cycle, leading you into a higher spiritual path based on facts, not faith, but faith. So there is a pulse of exactly 12,920 Earth years, when the polarity of the Earth's energy force of two poles from the female, Nun, Nunet, and Nunre, at the center of the Earth as its sun or solar plexus, to the second pole, which is the surface of Geb, the male part of the planet Earth, or Geb as a male, as all males have. So you're talking about the energy center from the center of our planet, which is female, to the surface of the planet, which is Geb, that being right there laying on the floor. That symbolizes Geb, who is male. Okay. When the polarity of Earth's energy force changes to the opposite pole, and it simultaneously changes location on the surface of the planet Earth, the new location not only rapidly awakens up the Negroid people living near this sacred point, which is Africa, this time, but any Negroid anywhere on planet Earth, and also it sends a frequency into the electromagnetic grid surrounding the whole planet Earth. This in turn affects those consciousness grids in ways that are determined by the planet Earth's own DNA. It's our time, Wu-nuwaupu, our time. We will grow according to a set of divine plans and designs by our Natharu. Know this because it's coming from Anunre, the female power, in the center of Earth's man. It's time for her to lead. And with that answer, I'm going to pass the class on to my good brother, Wu-nuwaup.
Sorry.
That's right.
And I'm a student of the master teacher, Panabab Yanun, also known as Dr. Malachi Kudi, New York. As students, we also not only promote the doctrine and the teachings of our master teacher, but we also promote his innocence. We profess to the world that he is innocent based on the facts that our master teacher is innocent. With that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions. Anyone have any questions? Or I can just sing if y'all like.
Say what now?
I can bust out a song.
Oh, God.
All right, well, yeah, I got a joke.
Oh, God.
There was this Mukasu in the woods. It's hunting, right? All of a sudden, a giant grizzly bear starts chasing him, right? So he runs and runs and tries to escape the grizzly bear. He gets to the edge of a cliff. He drops to his knees and he says, "Oh God, please let this be a religious bear." So the bear runs up, he gets very close to him, the bear stops. The clouds open up, the sun beams down on the bear drops to his knees and says, "Thank you, God, for the food I'm about to receive."
You know what? All right. Why are we laughing?
My question is kind of tying off of what the young man and the young sister were speaking upon.
Okay.
And I think the brother may have answered it, but I just a little more clarification. What about if a Nubian has in the past mixed with the Caucasoid female, or a female that may have been mixed Caucasoid and part of our, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know they give up, like, as far as like, that's like a downgrade for that Nubian man.
Right.
Can they get their grade back? Can they get back upgraded? How does that occur?
But that's the whole point of what the master teacher is here for, understanding that we all mix, as the brother explained earlier. We all have the Caucasian's blood within us. That's reality. Those are part of, in some of us, they even go back as far within our 4 generations that go back in our genetics, right? So, the part of what our doctrine is to do is to transform you back to that state that we were in before we were mixed. To find, the master teacher has to find that God gene within you and develop it, right? You know what I'm saying? So, as the master teacher explained, in genetic kits, you have what is called 2 different sciences when it comes to sex. You have the art of sex, and that deals with giving the most pleasure, right? Then you have the science of sex, which deals with passing on the optimum genetics to your offspring, right? The purpose of sex is really for procreation. You know, we've turned it into a lustful act, primarily because of our intermixing with different beings who didn't understand our sciences, right? So, you have to remember that we, being the original beings on the planet, had the optimum genetics. We had the best or the prime genetics on the planet. And so there was, once the Natharu mixed in, that's when those spiritual aspects really came in terms of the soul, the different things that the brother explained, where we actually have 2 different souls and 2 different spirits, right? You have your Ba, which is that soul that comes in when the man, understanding the master teacher explained even this years ago, he explained that the male is the soul provider, right? And the female is that mitochondrial provider, meaning the man represents that soul part, the woman represents the physical part. And all that comes together in a perfect formula to create perfect soul mates, or 2 souls mating. So that Ba is that soul that comes in when the man, before the man ejaculates. It's understood in metaphysics that the sperm travels up the spinal column, goes to the brain, is charged in with that soul, comes down before it ejaculates into the female. That's your Ba. Then you have what is called your Wu-nuwaup, which is the soul that is ignited the moment you take the first breath. That's why the Wu-nuwaup or the Oroki always dealt with wind. And when you go back to your story in your Bible, when it's explained that the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters, that word was Oroki, right? That's just actually the same word which was taken from our ancient language. Then you also have your 2 spirits, which is your Ka, which is the moment that the sperm goes into the ovum. That's when that Ka, or that spirit, is born, and you have what is called your Nefas, which is the spirit of the personality, which develops and changes as you grow through time and age. Right? I think the master teacher explained it reaches a certain level at once you reach the age of 7, what he referred to as the age of imagination. Right? So those different things have played an aspect. Now, not only with that nefas, you have your nefas, but you have the nefas of your ancestors. You follow? Those are your 30 U's, or your 30 spirits that tie into your genetics as well. But this plays a role on you throughout your life as you interact with different things come up. You have these different cravings, you have different urges, different impulses, which if you feed into them, certain ones become more prevalent and certain spirit forces within you take over, right? So our doctrine is to get you back not only to that, those prime genetics, that gene and the authority, but also to get you back to that one voice, which is you. So the master teacher actually explained in a letter that was written to one of our elders, that reading Pt.2 actually silences those different spirit forces that's within you. Now, once you mix in with someone, now you take on their spirit forces. So this is why sex was sacred. It wasn't something that was done just for the lust and the pleasure that we do now. You know, we didn't, we actually at certain times we had arranged marriages where the priest would mate one person with another because they knew their family lineage, they knew their genetics, and they would put them together because they knew that that would be best for not just those two coming together, but best for that race as a whole to produce those children. So it's a lot more to it than what we've been taught in our society, because our society is based on loose, free sex, things of that nature, where there is no real responsibility in terms of what happens once two people come together and they produce a child. So that those things are not taught. We have to be retaught that. And certain things like genetic kiss is a start for us to begin to learn those different things about a proper mating and proper ritual in terms of that. Any other questions?
Hi, Ted. In understanding the vortex, you know, the stirring of the gases or whatever, with the vortex being open on Monday, that's the next assigned time for it to open, right? Who's stirring it?
Well, you have certain things that happen
Yeah,
throughout.
like what's causing that to stir or move together to form that?
What you have, what the master teacher explained, is that you have certain things that open up as a part of nature. And he explained actually that the vortex opened every 10 years. And during what scientists did back in 1943, what was called the Philadelphia experiment, in which they actually were trying to create a cloaking device that would cloak under radar, and they actually made the ship disappear and reappear, right? And during that experiment, they caused that shift in the Earth's biorhythms to go off from every 10 years, from 40, 50 to shifted to 43. So now it goes off every 10 years from 43, 53. Now we're in 2013. So this is a natural phenomenon that happens with the vortex opening. And it coincides with the Earth's biorhythms. Remember, the Earth is a living entity, just like our body. And if you look at it, see, this is one of the things that we have to realize. We like to think of ourselves as individuals, but you're not really an individual. You are composed of millions upon millions of cells, which are really individual life forms that can exist independently in the right conditions, correct? You follow? So now, because we're looking at you from afar, we don't see those individual life forms. Now, because we're in the earth, we're on it, we're actually a part of it. That's what that whole ashes to ashes, dust to dust, because your body actually comes from the earth. When your mother was pregnant with you, she breathed in. This is why the woman knows these things. Follow? Because she's actually breathing in the earth, regenerating it to create you. You follow? So we are part of this entity called the earth, but because we're on it, we think we're individuals. But we are likened unto the cells in your body, which are, again, individual life forms that could exist independently in the right conditions. You follow? So and you as well, being part of the earth, vibrate on that same frequency of the planet, your body, you know what I'm saying? So that's what the part of the tones that the master teacher is giving us, and giving us that tone, that resonant frequency of the planet and of the universe, which is F. So that all of that ties in and coincides. Yes. Now, what he's saying, the vortex opening is that these are actually portals or gateways that open, right? And he explained that certain beings can come in and certain beings can go out at the same time. So these certain dates that were given were dates for us to be in line and be in tune, for us to get out of here. But we missed several dates. We missed a lot. This is why it's imperative for us to free our master teacher, because only he knows the way out. Literally. The way out of the spell, the way out of here, this planet, the way out. So it's imperative for us to free him, because without him, we have no guide. We don't know how to get out here. Even if you built a ship and left, where would you go? You follow?
Yes,
So,
where would the vortex would you go to or into?
right, we don't know. We people can barely get to the other side of Atlanta without their GPS. You follow? So that we have to have our guide on the physical as well as the spiritual world in order for us to get out of here.
You answered all of my questions at once, so thanks.
Any other questions?
You kind of answered it a little bit. It's kind of like the vortex open, entities can come in, entities can come out. Is it also a time period that, or an occurrence where the vortex open, as a collective, as the Wabians, we can receive energies to, like advance in our life, or so I say, inherit this, this wonderful world that's just in a bad state right now.
Right. Well, this is what the master teacher, we use this term in many times in ways where we use the term being in tune with nature, right? That is a literal term now that we're learning about the tones. We're literally learning what truly that means. And when the master teacher says love and unity is the key, now we know the key is a tone. You follow? And that we have to get in tune with nature. We have to get in tune with our ancestors. Then we have to also see a lot of things that there's a reality that we think there's some magic incantation we can say and all of a sudden everything's all good. But it's a process because we are so sick. And there are formulas that our doctor is giving us. There's a prescription that he's giving us. And one of the keys to that prescription is speaking our language. Because speaking our language actually helps get you realigned. So I like to say this example to people all the time. We are African people and we think in English. Therefore, we're out of our minds. So it's imperative for us to begin to speak in our language to get those proper tones, get them back in line and in tune. And just like learning the musical instruments, don't get frustrated when you can't get the pronunciation correct or things of that nature. When you first learn an instrument, you sound horrible. You sound the worst. People don't even want to be in the same building with you, trying to listen to you. Because so it's a practice that goes over time and repetitive. The best way, the master teacher told me, the best way to learn the language is to speak it. Literally. And there's no shortcuts on the spiritual path, as the master teacher says. So these are things, all of that is part of our spiritual development. We have to do it. For all does, I do. Father said, we gotta get it done. Any other questions? Hope all of you know that every Wednesday, 6:30, we walk in class. It's very important. Very important. Any other questions? Y'all ready to go home? Y'all looking at me like, please end the class now.
So how many stars in the sky?
Well, let me hold on. I'm going to take my shoes off. So, no. Any questions? This is one thing that's interesting. It's actually one of the updates. The master teacher explained that when you're talking about the Caucasian race, they're really dying. And if you look at it like this, in order for a people to sustain themselves, right, they have to have a certain fertility rate, meaning that when a man and woman come together, they have to produce a certain number of children just to even sustain. And the rate is approximately 2.1 children per family. Because you have to think, if two parents come together and they just produce one child, once those two parents die and the one child left, they have just diminished, right? Simple math. So in order for them to sustain themselves, they have to at least produce at least 2 children. Now, there's a study that looked at the fertility rate of the different European countries, and all of them were primarily below 2. Some even down to 1.3. The Caucasian race is dying. In fact, there was a study in the USA Today which said that 80% of the deaths that occur in the United States were Caucasian. They're dying. So nature is doing its job, which is eliminating nature's problem, the Wu-nuwaup. You follow? It's up to us to do our job, which is to get back in tune with nature and get our people back in tune with our ancestors. Now, this is not it's a process. And in order to do this process, we have to do the things that have been prescribed by Master Teacher. And it's something as simple as this. The Master Teacher said that we should dress a certain way. Because what does that do? It makes you visible. It makes you, if you walk around and you dress like everybody else, there's nothing in them that says, I want to be Wu-nuwaup. Right? I mean, what do they see? You know, you just look like the average guy. So they have to see it. And then, because it happens to me all the time, some people come up and get the nerve to ask a question. And then once they ask a question, that opens the door for dialogue. And then, you know, it's a process that starts there. You know, so we have to do our job to help spread this doctrine throughout the world, to our people. Because our people, just like us, are sick. We know the cure. We have to help administer it. Right? All right. No other questions like that? With that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. You know, you've been a great audience. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Got some great questions. week here at Paparar, 8 o'clock, question and answer class. And do your best to not just come by yourself, bring somebody with you. Bring some friends, bring some family. You know, don't